Koutou katoa no mai, and welcome to the live stream of a Kōrero with local body candidates for the 2022 Ōpōtiki Local Body Elections. My name is Ivor Jones, and my family and I have been residents of the Ōpōtiki community since we moved here from Rotorua in 2011. As a resident that will be voting in this year's election on the 8th of October 2022, I was interested in asking the mayoral and council candidates to have a kōrero with me about who they are and why they have applied for the positions they have. I work in the digital media field, and the intention of this cast is to raise the awareness of the Ōpōtiki community in terms of the characteristics and qualities of those people seeking to serve the community. I have spoken directly to several candidates about this idea, and a number are supportive, including today's guest, current Ōpōtiki Council Ward Councillor, Louis Rapihana. Tēnā koe, Louis.
Kōrero.
A YouTube channel exists that will hold the videos of our conversations so they can be referenced in the future. All candidates receive the same 10 questions upon which our kōrero is based, which should be about 15 to 30 minutes in length, and I hope that you find it of value. With that said, I would like to welcome Louis Rapihana, who is current councillor of the Coast Ward of Ōpōtiki and who wishes to serve the Ōpōtiki district again in this role, or the role of mayor, for which he is one of 4 candidates in the local body elections of 2022. Louis states that it is time for change. It is time to bring our community together, Māori, Pākehā, Asian, Indian, and our Pacific relations, young and old. This community needs leadership that thinks beyond the 30 to 50 year mark. We need to be making mokopuna decisions and being good tipuna. Tēnā koe, Louis.
Tēnā koe, Ivor, o tira tātou katoa e hui ana I tēnei rā, o tira koutou mā takitaki mai ana, kia ora tātou.
Tēnā koe. Louis, who are you? What motivated you to become a councillor in the first place and motivated you to try and take a leadership role as mayor of Ōpōtiki?
Yeah, it's been an interesting journey the last 3 years. When I was approached by Te Whānau Āpuni Iwi to stand in the local government elections last term, it was a shock to me. For the last 9 years, I've been involved in our iwi and hapu politics, and they saw the need for change with our relationship with the local council and the local body that represents our community for the betterment of our community on the coast. And to build those relationships, they needed a strong candidate and a strong councillor in that role. And they saw that within me and backed me to go and stand last term and have done it again this term, but also as mayor. Last term I did run as mayor, but due to my being new to local government, I wasn't that keen on actually holding that post. But for the last 3 years, it's given me a good standing and foundation within local government itself in understanding the legislation and the role that local body plays with the community. And also not just infrastructure, but the well-being is important here. And that's what I've learned over the last 3 years. We need to do more in that space. And that being why Te Whānau Āpuni are backing me again to stand this year.
Cool. So you've got iwi support in terms of Te Whānau Āpuni, which is fantastic. Looking back as you're in your role as councillor, what has been the biggest challenge from the past that you've identified? And what do you think is the biggest challenge in the future for councillor and mayor?
I think the biggest challenge from the past, which council has failed our people, is actually communication and actual true engagement with our people. We've got a lot of issues that have been raised year and year and year in, and they haven't been addressed. If we look at the horse issue, that's been around for at least 20 to 30 years, and this year we had to try and make decisions on that, which made it very hard with the lack of engagement in previous years to try and deal with that, or the lack of building of relationships with the horse community. Going forward, I also see that as a struggle. We need to ensure that we are making great engagement with our community, and we're not just talking about going to the community with the plan already in plan, already in detail, already on paper. We need to go to the community and have those conversations. What is it the community want to see our community as? What is it they want to see us bring to this community? What is it they want us to build in this community? Not us councillors just putting our whakaaro on the table and saying this is what the community need. Let's get out there and actually have those conversations with all age groups, with all cultures, no matter who you are.
There's an old Māori thought that, you can sort any problem out through hui, hui, hui. That's the idea that Māori hui too much, but you actually get to the end result after going through all of the ideas of the consultation of the people, all those different groups that you're talking about, that getting all those ideas and distilling those down is a good quality of leadership. Thank you very much. So you've identified the horse sort of problem as a historical problem and one for the future that may be a priority for you?
Oh, absolutely. And, if we have those engagements and those open conversations with our community, we can sort those issues out, like the horsing. I don't personally see it as an issue going forward. Probably the most painful issue at this stage is housing. And just of this morning, I've received a message from somebody reaching out for help who cannot find housing in Ōpōtiki. But again, that comes back to good communication and engagement with those responsible for housing to our community, like Kāinga Ora, and also our iwi providers, and working with them to try and enable them to do more here in this community. But that must come back to good communication and engagement with the right people.
Let's project ourselves into the future 3 years. You're mayor, you're doing this again, applying, reapplying for the position, re-putting yourself out there. What have you achieved at that point?
That's a big thing. That's a big thing. But my biggest achievement, I would hope, is the bringing together of our community, the kotahitanga of our community. No matter who you are, where you come from, I would hope that I have achieved that by engaging with our people on the ground and making it feel like home again, like it used to do when we were tamariki mohopuna, running around these streets. It was a very homely feeling. You always felt safe. You knew who your neighbour were. You knew who lived on your street, who lived on all the streets around here. We need to bring that community vibe back to Ōpōtiki and back to the wider district. So for me, in 3 years, I hope that we have moved on from bringing our community together and having meaningful engagement with our community to looking at the next level of issues that we may have in 3 years' time, whatever that may be.
When I worked for the Trust Board, this was 6 years ago now, there were stories going around the table about how back in the day, back in the 50s, the people who I was working with were kids back then, and they were telling stories about you could walk into any house and have a feed. You knew everyone back then. You could leave your house open. There was no problem. But nowadays,
no, absolutely, and you could leave your car open as well. But these days, you have to lock it as soon as you get out of it. But that vibe needs to come back, and we were all like that. We would just walk across the road to the neighbours, or we'd walk down the road to aunties and uncles, or our mates, and we'd just walk in the door, and there was no issue. But today is a different environment, and we need to work on that social well-being of our people to try and help bring that back as well. And so again, that comes back to meaningful engagement with those services who are responsible for serving our community in that way. And also lobbying for them at central government level to ensure that they are receiving what they need to perform their jobs here in the community, to help our whānau, to ensure that they're safe and bring back that vibe.
Great segue into communication and planning. The Ōpōtiki District Council website here. There's a little button here, 2022 elections. A lot of information here, folks. Information for candidates, so you can see what the candidates have to sort of comply with, and who the actual nominated candidates are. On the District Council website are the profiles of all of the candidates who I hope to interview. And you'll see here that Louis has two, one for his councillor and one for the mayoral. And a lot of the korero that we've had so far is covered in those two profiles. Would you like to add any more comment, Louis?
Yeah, it's great that all of this is available to us online and in different social media platforms. But there's a lot of our community that don't have that advantage, or of the age group that don't interact with technology as such. And that's why it's vital for me that we ensure that we cover all bases when it comes to communication and engagement with our community, and having the face-to-face conversations, and just getting a cup of tea and having that conversation about what is it you want to see here, or what is it that is affecting you to continue living here in Ōpōtiki. As we know, a lot of our people are leaving this district due to the hard nature of living here.
Mm-hmm. What do you think is your most important attribute that you see as an asset or contribution to the council table again?
Yeah, so it's actually the engaging stuff. I can
Yeah.
engage with absolutely anyone. I can engage with any age group. I can engage with any culture. I can bring that to the table, and also I can engage when there's a difference of opinion. I'm not a person who takes things to heart when somebody else disagrees with me. But what I will do is try and understand, why is it that they are disagreeing with me? How is it we can come to a consensus to ensure that we get the best of that moment for our community? So that kind of engagement for me at the table is something that I think I will bring to the table for the betterment of this community.
Mm. What do you think the role of local government is in shaping the future and success of our community of Ōpōtiki? You sort of indicated the link the council might need to have with iwi, perhaps. What do you think the role of local government is in shaping the future and success of our community?
For me, I think we're the enabler of everything happening in the community. For us, we need to enable absolutely every activity possible for the well-being of our community. And for me, that's where we need to also be moving into, is actually focusing more on the well-being of our community, not just infrastructure. As to where the current administration, what we focus a lot on is the infrastructure. But actually, if we don't look after the well-being of our community, we're not going to have infrastructure to feed anyone with, or there's going to be no one there to utilize that infrastructure. And so our job as a local body is to bring all the components together, be it iwi, be it central government, be it all the agencies, together to ensure the well-beings of our people are being met and looked after.
Mm-hmm. So how do you envisage working with others in the council, especially those who you might not agree with?
Having conversation, that's all you can do. You can continue.
More yeah, hui. Yep.
Hui, kōrero, until we come to an agreement or until we come to a consensus. But the other thing also is to remember tikanga Māori, is to ensure that we have that cup of tea after. Never leave that conversation without having a cup of tea to whakanua, to bring us back and ground us again, so that we don't carry our hara or our differences outside of the chamber. Those differences need to stay in the chamber, not go outside and cause more issues for us later on down the track.
Excellent. What are your thoughts around the role of local and central government? So what could be improved? Maybe?
Yeah, there needs to be a bigger push with the relationship between central government and local government. One thing is that both actually need a huge reboot. Both need a big reset for the betterment of Aotearoa. With that, central government need to enable local government more to complete and be the regulator that we are to central government. Central government make the legislation, local government have to regulate that legislation. So we need to have a great working relationship for that to happen. At the moment, there's a lot of disconnect when it comes to that. The decisions are made and then it's just forced onto local government to enforce. And we get the bad stuff from the community because we're on the ground here and we have to enforce all this stuff. So actually, let's build on that relationship to try and improve that, so that we're not having to our community because of the legislation.
Let me talk to you about natural disasters. If you were mayor of Ōpōtiki and we got hit by a tsunami or earthquake, a natural disaster, you in the leadership role of mayor get the phone call. This is what I said to Lynn. You got the phone call as the mayor for the CDC or whoever it might be at 2 a.m. in the morning. This has happened. How are you going to deal with that challenging time?
There's been many situations like that in the last 3 years, where me as district councillor have been informed of a natural disaster or the possibility of a natural disaster. The last one, of course, was the State Highway 35 when it gave way. Instantly, the people on the ground there rang me and said there's cracks in the road. Straight away got on the phone to the MPs, straight away got on the phone to NZTA and Regional Council to see what's going on here. Unfortunately, that evening it then gave way, and again back on the phones to ensure that everyone was doing what they could do to help protect the coast and ensure that they weren't affected as much as possible. Unfortunately, I wasn't in the district at the time, but that did not stop me from doing what I needed to do for the community. Again, if we look at the tsunami warning that we received last year, everyone on the coast saw Louis going door to door to ensure everyone was out because we never received the notification for evacuation until sometime after the actual notification was sent out. And was only lucky by Facebook I was informed by council that there was a tsunami warning. And so I managed to be able to get out there in the Hawaii, Maraenui, Whitianga or Mayo area to try and get everyone out and tell them that they needed to go to higher ground. And we sat on that higher ground and just chatted with each other and kept each other entertained while we waited for the all clear to come through. I'm very used to dealing with that level of natural disaster with my history and being with St. John and the role that we play there, completing the Sims 4 training at that time, and also dealing with the flooding in 2005 and the issues we had back then as a frontline ambulance officer. So I'm very used to dealing with that under pressure and know exactly where I'm going to ensure that the safety of the people and that they're well looked after during that disaster or whatever it may be.
As part of the mahi homework that I did in preparation for this, is following your social media feed, and it's really educating to see how you've come through the ranks in terms of St. John's, and it's interesting seeing the your life before the Mataora and your life in St. John. So it's very informative, and I am enjoying following your story as you lead towards the mayoral position in 2022, and I encourage people to have a look and see what Louis' story is, as well as the social media feeds of the other candidates that might be out there, just to raise your awareness as well. And this is just another form of that. I'd like to thank you very much, Louis. I've just got one more question for you. Elected members must act in the best interests of their community and declare any interests that could be perceived as a conflict to being impartial. Do you have any interests that could be perceived as a conflict to being impartial?
The only interest that probably will be of thing is my role within iwi. So I am a leader of Te Whānau Āpanui, but when it comes to the relationship between council and Te Whānau Āpanui, my iwi are very clear, as I am, that I sit on the council table. And so when it comes to making decisions of relationship, I put the iwi to the side and only speak for the council. And that's very clear in our partnership, in our relationship, and working for the last 3 years. And my iwi are very happy with that. Council is very happy with that. And we've had the great success that we have on the coast because of that.
Fantastic. You don't have any huge business shares like in Microsoft or Google that where you're hiding your millions in offshore accounts somewhere in the Cayman Islands?
If only I did, then I probably wouldn't run for mayor.
Thank you. You wouldn't be here. Hey, thank you very much, Louis, for giving us this time to go through those questions and have a korero with me. I hope you found it a good mechanism to raise the communication that you're talking about and getting some more information out there. This is just one of many forms where that can happen. And I'd like to thank you for taking your time.
Nā ngā mihi ki a koe te rangatira o te rā koutou e mātakitaki mai ana. Koe nei taku hia, hei whakawhānui ai I ngā kōrero ki a tātou katoa, aha koa kōwai no hia. This is what I want to be doing when I do become mayor, is actually have more live streams where we are talking more naturally to you and answering your questions as well. Not just leaving it for our staffers at council or for the paper or for the internet sites for the council and all of that, but actually having one-on-ones as well. Nō reira, tēnei ka mihi atu ki a tātou.
Kia ora. Nā mihi.